The Hall of Maat was silent, a cavern of cosmic scale where the only light came from the soft, divine luminescence of the scales of judgment and the faint, sorrowful glow of the recently deceased souls who queued for eternity. Anubis, the guardian, the weigher of hearts, stood as he had for millennia. His jackal head was bowed in perpetual solemnity, his hands one black as obsidian, one golden as the sun, gently guiding the souls through their final sacred trial. To place a heart upon the feather of truth was to lay a life bare, and Anubis bore the weight of every story with an infinite weary grace. But the balance was shifting. A tremor, subtle as a dying man's sigh, ran through the duat. The souls flickered, their whispers turning to whimpers. Anubis lifted his gaze, his dark eyes seeing not the hall, but the world of the living. On the mortal plane, the sky over the Nile delta was bleeding a sickly, bruised purple. Sandstorms, not of natural wind, but of pure, chaotic malice, scoured the land. Pyramids cracked, temples crumbled. The prayers of the priests had become screams. Set had grown tired of his exile in the arid outskirts of creation. The god of chaos, of storms and violence, was not merely returning, he was unmaking. Set did not arrive with a herald. He manifested as a corruption. The very air of the duat curdled, smelling of ozone, blood, and scorched stone. He was a towering figure of roiling crimson muscle and nightmare. His head that of a bizarre, tusked beast that had never known a name. In one hand he held a massive spear, the scepter, crackling with destructive energy. In his other, he clenched the still-beating golden heart of a minor solar deity he had devoured on his march to the underworld. Nephew. Set's voice was the grinding of countenance, the shriek of a tornado. You who coddle the dead, you who hide in this tomb of order, the age of Maat is over, the scales are broken. Anubis did not respond with words, stood, and as he rose, the Hall of Maat rose with him. The pillars stretched taller, the floor solidified into a mirror of the night sky. The feather upon the great scale glowing with the fierce, pure light of a star. This was his domain. He was not just a guide. He was the embodiment of cosmic order, the final arbiter of truth. This is not a place for the unweighed uncle. Anubis's voice was low, a resonance that stilled the trembling souls. Your heart would tip the scales into oblivion. Then let them tip, Set roared, and he lunged. The battle was not one of mere strength, but of fundamental concepts. Set's spear thrust forward, and a storm of sand and lightning erupted, a vortex designed to scour the hall into dust. Anubis raised his golden hand. The storm broke against a wall of silent, immutable law, the sand turning to harmless glass shards that tinkled on the floor. Anubis countered. He pointed his black hand, and from the shadows between stars, chains of absolute finality shot forth, wrapping around Set's limbs. They were not chains of iron, but of consequence, of the unchangeable truth that all things must end. Set screamed, not in pain, but in fury at the concept of an ending. His chaotic energy flared, and the chains of finality began to rust, to crack, their certainty polluted by his inherent rebellion. Set broke free and slammed his fist into the ground. The floor of the hall split, and from the fissure, monstrous, serpentine creatures of pure chaos, the children of his will, poured forth, hissing and spitting acid that corrupted the very soul stuff of the dead. A tear, cold and black as a desert night, traced a path through the fur on Anubis's cheek. These were not foes to be judged, only to be erased. He swung his arm in a wide arc, and a scythe of pure, concentrated silence appeared in his grasp. Where it passed, the serpent ceased to be, not just killed, but unmade from the record of existence. It was a mercy he hated to administer. The conflict escalated. Set, enraged, tore a piece of the chaos from his own essence and hurled it not at Anubis, but at the great scales of Maat. The projectile, a ball of shrieking, formless entropy, struck the central pillar. A sound like a universe-breaking echoed through the duat. The scales shuddered. The golden beam, which had stood perfectly balanced for all time, tilted. The feather of truth flickered, its light dimming. And in that moment, a profound and terrible drama unfolded. The millions of souls in the hall, their fate suddenly uncertain, let out a collective, silent scream of cosmic despair. Their journey, their truths, their very meaning was being undone. The sight of their suffering was a wound deeper than any set could inflict. Anubis felt their terror, their shattered hope, as if it were his own. His duty was not to fight, but to protect, to give them peace. He made a choice. As Set advanced, laughing his world-breaking laugh, Anubis did not raise a weapon. Instead, he turned his back on the god of chaos and walked to the faltering scales. He placed his own hands upon them, the black hand of death on one plate, the golden hand of guidance on the other. He poured his own divine essence into the mechanism of Maat. He was not weighing a heart, he was becoming the counterweight. His form began to dim, his luminescence flowing into the scales, reinforcing the cosmic law with the very substance of his being. The scales steadied. The beam groaned, then slowly, inexorably, began to right itself. The feather of truth blazed brighter than ever, its light now the light of Anubis' sacrifice. Set's laughter died. He watched, bewildered, as his nephew gave himself up, not for power, not for victory, but for order. For the souls he was sworn to protect. The chaotic storm around him faltered. He could understand destruction. He could understand conquest. But this willing self-annihilation for the sake of lesser beings was an insanity that even chaos could not comprehend. The light from the scales became a wave of pure, focused Maat. It did not attack Set. It simply defined him. It was disorder. It was order. It could not coexist in this sanctified space. With a roar of frustrated fury, he was expelled, his form unraveling at the edges, cast back into the outer darkness from whence he came. Silence returned to the Hall of Maat. The scales stood perfect, immaculate, and eternally balanced. But Anubis was gone. In his place, standing humbly before the scales, was a mortal-looking man with the tired, kind eyes of a jackal and hands that were now merely human. He had sacrificed his godhood to save the process of judgment. He was now the eternal mortal guardian, the first and last soul in his own line, forever bound to the hall to guide others to a peace he could never again possess. He looked at the queue of souls, their forms now steady and calm. A final single tear, this one warm and human, fell from his eye and evaporated on the flawless floor. There was no drama in his victory, no glory, only the quiet, eternal weight of his duty, and the profound, loving sorrow of a guardian who had given everything to ensure that the hearts of the dead would always have a place to be weighed. The weigher had placed his own heart upon the scale and found the fate of all creation to be heavier.